Hello, my name is Dorothy. I run a network for people with trauma and kind of have this harebrained diagram for you today. There should be some papers around you in your cups somewhere. Somebody handed you something, I'm not really sure. But on those papers there should be a diagram for you to diagnose yourself, kind of look and just self-assess where you are on the scale of victim, survivor, and thriver. We're going to learn today what victims look like, how survivors behave, and what thrivers are. We can look at who you are, what you do, where you think you can grow, where you think you've already made enough growth to be proud of yourself, and how you think you can help others that might be somewhere unhealthy on the scale. What is a victim versus a survivor or a thriver? I don't know if I mentioned, but I run a network for people with trauma. I have extensive trauma myself, experiencing rape, pedophilia, violence. I probably should have said a trigger warning first, but I think they might have stated. If there's anyone that's uncomfortable, it's okay to leave. I've been through an extensive amount of trauma and abuse, and I've also spent a lot of time around many people who also have trauma and abuse. Things that we can learn about these stories that most people don't share, and I would say all people can sympathize with, whether it's something little like a car accident, losing something that you care about, or if it's something horrible like war, gang rapes, extreme violence, the death of a loved one in front of you. We all have something that we could learn as far as how we think about ourselves, how we think about our world, and how we treat ourselves and those around us. Victims specifically are playing the victim. They are utilizing attention-seeking behavior. Attention-seeking behavior can often look like verbal self-abuse. I'm so dumb, I'm so ugly, I can't do this, there's no way. Give me all of your love and attention because I need someone to affirm me. Repeatedly falling into abuse and still living in the abuse. Victims are often going to be more comfortable being treated poorly because they feel like they don't deserve it, because they feel like this is what's normal, or maybe they don't even understand that there's anything out there outside of abuse because it's all they've ever known. Victims are falling into addiction, whether it's sex, drugs, food. It can still be something that's causing problems in your life that you are utilizing to replace connections that you otherwise would not have found. Looking for love in an unhealthy way and refusing love from healthy people because we don't know how to accept good things for ourselves. Victims are always going to be falling into poor behavior because they don't know how to get themselves out of it. Victims are refusing to allow personal growth or healing due to willful ignorance. Sometimes this is just not seeing a therapist or a friend or anyone that's going to tell us, hey man, don't do that, cut it out, that's not healthy, that's not good for you. Victims are so willing to just refuse growth because it's easier than acknowledging that they have to do something to change. And sometimes it's not intentional, it's not that they're doing anything wrong, it's not that they're bad people, it's just that they don't know how to look at things differently. I used to live in a trap house. Does anyone here know what a trap house is, or has anyone ever been to one? Yeah, thank you for raising your hands, few people. I'm sorry. I don't know what the trap houses looked like that you went to, but mine had a drug dealer whom I was sleeping with. It had several hookers that were in and out. It had many people that came in and out that were claimed to have been murderers. Definitely crackheads, even though we didn't sell crack. I'm going to be honest with you. In fact, I didn't sell anything, but there were people in the house that did. And at the time, I was too innocent to understand how drugs worked because I was raised in such a repressive religious household that I didn't know that maybe crackheads coming in the house isn't normal. A lot of people that were coming into the home were homeless people that I'd lived with on the streets previously, and a lot of them were drug addicts. Sometimes there were people that came in that we thought were weird that weren't addicted to drugs, but there was two specific sets of schizophrenic men, one of whom was a drug dealer that I mentioned sleeping with, and he flew off the handle one day, putting a shotgun in my face. He got angry. He had been trying to hurt someone else, and I stood up for them. But this shotgun had triggered me into something that happens when you have post-traumatic stress disorder, the fight or flight that we all have, but it's more heightened when you have severe trauma. And I was able to remove the gun from him. I told the hookers in the house, one of whom was pregnant, to come with me, and I brought them to a McDonald's. After the McDonald's, I went to my work. I did my shift. And I chose to leave and go to a family of people that were significantly healthier than most things that I was exposed to at this time. So what would a survivor look like? Survivors are cutting out the abuse. They're leaving. Whether it's your boss that's treating you like crap, I'm not cursing. I get affirmation for that later, by the way. They are utilizing self-affirmation. Hey, I deserve better than this. I'm good. I'm doing a good job. I'm happy. They're setting boundaries. We're saying, don't touch me there, man. I'm uncomfortable. Leave me alone. No, I told you I don't like tomatoes. I'm not going to eat that. Thank you anyways. They are learning self-reflection and willingness to accept help when needed. We're capable of saying, hey, I know I don't like taking help from people. I know it's hard for me to trust them. I know that when they give me gifts, sometimes it feels like they're just trying to make me owe them something as a gift of obligation, but I need help, and I don't owe anybody. Survivors are learning to be good enough for themselves and having self-love. We can say, it's okay. I don't have to beat myself up today. I know I want to, but as a survivor, I'm going to choose to not completely bully myself and instead have some ice cream with my Netflix. As survivors, we are learning to have healthy habits and self-care. Get the shampoo that you like. Stop beating yourself up. You need new shoes. Get new shoes. You need a back rub. Ask somebody for one. Care about yourself. Treat yourself good. But what is a thriver? I don't really do public speaking. I talk to a lot of people individually, one-on-one, but I'm going to talk to you about one of my rapes. Probably going to get weird. I may get shaky. I'm sorry. When I was taking the bus to this new family's home that was full of nice people that were kind and caring and uplifting, I met a man. I had to take the bus every day, so I talked to a lot of people. And he was a nice man. I saw him help a crippled, blind man up off of the earth. That was a little weird because Michigan roads are bad. I don't know if they told you I'm from Michigan. Really rough place. The roads are rough too. Ouch. Actually, they might be more rough than the presence of the KKK or the rape culture, but we'll leave that alone. Anyways, this blind guy, he helped him up, and he had a nice shirt. And I was like, wow, cool dude, cool shirt. We talked for the whole bus ride. It was a nice conversation. He told me he was a good man. He told me that he was a Christian. He told me he was a photographer, that he worked at a church. And I was like, yeah, this sounds like a kosher guy to go with. So we traded contacts at the bus transit, and the next day he asked me on a date. We had an interesting date. We went around nice people. We went around people that seemed normal, no drugs. It was the higher income. They had a vegan party. They seemed normal-ish, if vegans are normal. And it was a good time. But afterwards, on the bus route, his home was on the way home to my home. His home was on the way to my home. Anyways, he invited me to come see some musical instruments of his because it sounded like he had a dope-ass collection of instruments. And I was like, yes, I want to see your dope-ass instruments, man. Let me get in that. We show up to his house. Instruments turned out to be a fallacy. They were there. Don't get me wrong. I did still notice them. But instead, I was violently raped suddenly, out of nowhere. I totally didn't expect it. And afterwards, he treated me like crap. He dragged me by the arm, threw me onto a bus, and the people that were on the bus could see me clearly disheveled. He had given me a torn-up, ratty shirt of his to cover myself because I had been so disheveled that even someone like him saw that he needed to cover it up. The people on the bus didn't look at me. They didn't talk to me. They didn't acknowledge the way that he put me on the bus. They didn't care whatsoever to even try to do something. Afterwards, I had to walk 1.5 miles in the cold rain, and it took me days to talk to someone about it. When I finally did, I was committed to a mental hospital, and it was there that I got to learn about not only post-traumatic stress disorder, but also other people's mental illnesses and the way that we can go about collecting them. I made friends with lots of people there, all of whom are beautiful, growing, healthy people, and I'm proud to say today are better off than they were when I met them. Through learning about my mental illness, and then also continuing to do so afterwards, and growing with the people that I'd met in the mental hospital, we eventually discovered that we were healthier. by uplifting each other, supporting each other, and having growth. A thriver will not only deny abuse, but also stand against it. Thrivers can say, hey, what was that about? It's not okay for you to act that way. How could you do that? You see people all the time at the restaurant. Somebody's getting angry at a waiter. Somebody's being mean to someone else. Being able to say no when someone treats you poorly, as well as when someone else is treating someone else poorly, is important. Having self-confidence and self-worth. Thrivers are capable of saying, you know what? It doesn't really matter what the bad thoughts are in my head, because I'm good. Fuck 'em. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to be cursing. Anyways. Maintaining healthy boundaries for themselves as well as others. Our healthy boundaries can say, listen, I told you not to touch my butt. I know you think we're good friends, but that's my butt. Don't touch it. Thrivers are able to say accepting help and giving it to others in a healthy way. Again, with the gift of obligation, it's hard, but thrivers are able to understand when they need help and when other people need help, how they can do it in a way that isn't going to destroy them. It's not going to take too much. It's okay, I know that you need this thing right now and I can give this to you because emotionally I can afford it and it's not going to cripple you either. Expecting to be treated with respect. Expecting integrity. Don't act like a piss poor person. It's okay to expect that from other people. Don't treat others poorly, man. I don't care what your excuse is. Be better. Thrivers have healed from past traumas and are able to make the mental space needed when necessary. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Take alone time, man. I think all thrivers need it. This is a diagram that I've made for you. You should have a pamphlet somewhere. There's going to be victims who are on a scale of 1 through 3, abuse, self-deprecation, boundaries, accepting help, and begging for love. Everything that I've read off to you should be on a separate piece of paper explaining which category looks like what. Over the last year, this diagram that I've been using, I've been giving out to people that I know or care about, and I run through it with them, and they can look at themselves and they can say, hey, I'm really good at cutting out abuse, but I'm really bad about abusing myself. And they can take themselves and measure, thinking about it intensely. If they're accepting help the right way, if they're begging for love, if they're allowing themselves to heal. And afterwards, we can continue to have conversations, whether I have the conversation with them or someone else does. And they can work on the places where they're not thriving. And then when they do get to the point of thriving, they can pay attention to other people and say, hey, are you a victim or a survivor? What are you doing that can help yourself thrive? This is the thing explaining everything. How do you think this concept can help you guys from your day-to-day life? Understanding the difference between being a victim, a survivor, a thriver helps us pay attention to the people around us. It helps us pay attention to people like me on the bus, or if we have time, a girl that I might tell you about. Her name is Brandy. Being a victim versus a survivor, a thriver, and understanding the difference can help us look after everyone else. It can help us notice when the things that are going on around us or the things that are going on in our own specific lives are not okay, and what we should do about them, whether it's just telling somebody to cut it out or telling ourselves to cut it out. For a specific instance of a time that this was important, I was going to an apartment complex that's one of the worst in the area, and there was a woman there. She was walking very briskly and she seemed afraid, and I had to take my car to a place where I could get close to her because there was a large man chasing after her. By the time I got my car to her, he had already started to pick her up and shake her, just like you're not supposed to shake babies, so you don't give them shaken baby syndrome. I startled them. I offered her, hey, do you want to ride? And I spoke to her nicely with positivity, not even ignoring the abuser. He got startled by this and he tried to tell her that I was a pimp and that he shouldn't go with me. But she ran away from him and me at the same time, giving me hope. Okay, maybe there's something that we can do. I drove after her, seeing that there were many men standing around that didn't care, and a security guard whom I coerced into helping me. This security guard didn't seem to care much, but after convincing him to distract the man, I swooped her up. There's a big scary story, but I don't have time to tell. I put her in a place that should have been safe and healthy for her, but she still chose as a victim to go back. As thrivers, we can pay attention to when people need help and try, and we can also do it in a way to where we're helping ourselves be healthy as well as the others. I think that's it. Do you guys need anything? Do you want me to explain the diagram? No?